Man, my mother passed away 20 years ago today, which I can't believe. And it's funny because I woke up this morning and I had a dream about her last night. And it was a dream about something that actually happened, which was when she was living in my house, when she was sick, before she died. She was very, very ill, and I was taking care of her. And I took her to Haverstraw, New York. There's a ferry that goes from Haverstraw out to Ossining on the other side of the river. And, you know, it was cold like it is today here in New York, and we drove up there, went to the ferry because she wanted to get on that boat. And my mother, she hadn't even been outside in a long time. Like, she was totally disabled. She was like really, she had been through complete hell. You know, like osteomyelitis, this bone disease, and she also had cancer, and she had so much stuff going on with her. She had been in a coma for like months that she recovered from. So anyway, I drive her up there and run out to the ferry, and I see this guy in the boat, and I say, "Can we get on the boat? You know, I want to give my mother a ride." And he's like, "No, the last boat left already for the day." And I was like, "Really? Like, I just want to give my mother a ride, you know?" And he looked in the car and he looked at my mother. And I could tell something happened, you know. He just looked at her and he went, "Get in." And so he let me and my mom and my wife at the time, we got on the boat, and it was just the three of us riding around the Hudson River. And I just remember the wind blowing on my mother's face, and her hair, you know, what little hair was left was like fluttering around, like it looked like tiny little leaves on a tree that was like at the end of its cycle just before winter. And she was just so happy, you know. She was in total bliss. It was unbelievable. So I dreamed about that last night, and I didn't even realize today was the anniversary of her death. 20 years. I mean, it feels like 2 weeks ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a location today that I know that she would love, somewhere up here. I'm in upstate New York, and I'm going to sit and I'm going to tell you a story about her, something that happened the day she died. And I just want to share that in her honor. And yeah, so let me end this right here, and I'll go find another place and I'll pick it up and add to this video and tell the story. So, wow. 20 years, Phyllis Wilk. Unbelievable.
Of it takes place. Leadership like that, amazing.
Continue on US 202 West for half a mile. In a quarter mile, at the traffic circle, take the third exit onto US 202 West Route 90.
Player Francis Mbappe never let anything get in the way of his music, until intense abdominal pain caused.
So apparently that ferry is no longer in service. But it was 20 years ago that I was parked right here, like literally right on this spot. There's a bus stop right here. I'll get a shot of it. And there was nothing. There were now these big apartments here. There was nothing here. It was just completely empty. And the ferry used to run back and forth from Haverstraw to Ossining. And people would go from Rockland County, go to Westchester, and be able to get on the train, Metro North, and get down to the city much faster than having to drive, and they can get out of their cars, and, you know, better for the environment, better for everything. But apparently not enough people used it, so they shut it down. But I just wanted to tell you, I wanted to tell you the story here because this is where that guy gave my mother that ride. And so, I don't know, I kind of feel that energy right now. So the story is, the morning that my mother died, Doctor came in and checked her out and told me that she was probably going to die today, that day. So anyway, a rabbi came into the room and he spoke to me. He asked me to step out, so he spoke to me and he said, listen, doctor told me your mom's probably going to pass away today. I was wondering if you maybe wanted us to have these religious women come in after she passed. They would take her body, they would wash her in these religious oils, you know, and they would bathe her and wrap her in this beautiful cloth, a shroud, and then a religious man, a rabbi, would pray over her all night before the funeral tomorrow. Now, my mother, you know, leading up to all of this, we started to have that difficult conversation, like, Mom, what do you want me to do? Like, what kind of funeral do you want? Do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to be buried? So she wanted to be buried near my father, a veteran cemetery in Spring Valley, New York. But she said, I don't care, you know, whatever you want to do, just do it. I said, Mom, what kind of casket stuff? She's like, look, when you're dead, okay? Just put me in a cheap box and just bury me next to your father. And I'm like, when you're dead, you're dead? Yeah, when you're dead, you're dead. That's how my mother felt. Like when you die, there was nothing else. That was it. You're dead, you're finished. That's it. Life is over. There's nothing beyond this existence. And she felt like that forever. So I spoke to the rabbi and I said, look, man, my mom, I guarantee you she's not going to want that. You know, my mother, she used to say to me, when you're dead, you know. And the rabbi laughed and he said to me, look, just ask her. You know, you never know. Just ask her. I said, I don't know. He goes, just come on. Just promise me you'll at least say something to her. I said, okay, I promise I'll say something. Knowing that my mother's probably going to scold me, like on the day that she's dying. So anyway, I go into her room and she looked at me and I said, that was a rabbi. And she goes, I know. And I said, he made me promise that I would ask you this. So I'm going to ask you this. And, you know, I know that you're not going to be into this. I told him there was no way you would do this. And she was just looking at me. She didn't really have a lot of strength to talk. So she was just kind of staring at me and smiling. And I think she knew that I was protecting her and stuff like that. So anyway, I told her the story. I said, look, the rabbi came in. He wanted me to ask you if you wanted these religious women to bathe you in these religious oils and then wrap you in this beautiful shroud. And then a religious man would pray over you all night before the funeral tomorrow. And you would be blessed as you're exiting this world. But, you know, I told him you probably wouldn't be into that at all. And so now I told you, expecting her to, you know, roll her eyes and say something sarcastic to me. But she looked at me and she goes, that would be nice. And I'm like, that would be nice. What are you talking about? Like, what happened to when you're dead, you're dead? And she goes, you never know. And so we did it, you know. They bathed her and they wrapped her in the shroud and somebody prayed over her. And we had a beautiful, beautiful funeral the next day. And that's what happened. My crazy mother, you never know. And, you know, I think about that all the time with pretty much everything that I do. You know, like when something that I'm doing just seems ridiculous, like I'm doing something against all odds and everybody's telling me I'm ridiculous and I can't possibly accomplish it, I just think, hey, why not try? You know, you never know. So, yeah, that's probably the same boat that she rode on that day, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cold today, just like it was that day. I think it was a little bit warmer that day because if it was this cold, I probably wouldn't have taken her out, but it was very windy and certainly windy out on the water. And yeah, pretty cool. So, yeah. Let's move to another place and I'll end this video for my mom today. Anyway, my mother's buried right here, next to my father. And yeah, can't believe it's been 20 years. You know, time flies and life is real and never to be taken for granted, not even 1 second of one day, that's for sure. You know, just before I left where the ferry was, I ran into this guy and I asked him how long the ferry had been shut down. And he said to me, it's not shut down. He goes, I'm about to run this boat across the river right now. And he said, it's been running for 20 years. And I told him the whole story about my mother, and he said, oh yeah. And he knows the guy who was there that day because there was only one guy who was driving the ferry at that time. And he's still working. And so that was pretty funny. I had a nice conversation with that guy. And now that I came to the grave here, I ran into a woman whose husband just passed away. A couple days ago, we had a really nice conversation as well. Her husband also served in World War II. He just died. He was 96 years old. My father died when he was 67. My mother made it to 80. My mother would have been 100 now. That's crazy. Anyway, Phyllis Wilk, rest in peace with your crazy self. I miss you. I think a lot of people miss you. And yeah, life is real. All right, so one last thing I have to do. People who follow me on social media and friends of mine who just know me in the real world know that every year on my mother's birthday, I buy one of these. So in honor of the 20th anniversary of her passing, I'm going to add this to the celebration for today. And I got her one of these, a black and white cookie. She loved them. I love them. I hardly ever eat them. I don't even feel that well today, but I bought it anyway. Rest in peace, Mom. 20 years, I can't believe it. And onward we go. Let's get the most out of this life. To everybody I say, don't take even a moment for granted, ever. Peace.